Today I am sitting down to share my birth story with Edith. It has been basically a year, and I talked about sharing her birth story when she was first born, and I had every intention to do that, but if you're a mom, you know how life goes, and time totally got away from me. I wanted to share my labor story, not because it's anything super exciting or anything, but it was a very positive home birth labor. And I know that when I was preparing to have Edith, all of those stories and videos of home births, I just really loved watching them to get myself mentally prepared for giving birth. So I just want to share this in case this will help anybody else, and also just for myself to be able to look back and remember the story. For first-time moms, if you are not being induced and you're having a natural birth, typically they tell you that you go usually a week or two past the 40-week mark. I knew in my mind that that was to be expected, and to not get my hopes up to even go at 40 weeks, But my cousin had her first baby in a birth center, and she had gone into labor about 2 weeks early. So even though I knew realistically for myself that that wasn't likely, I think in the back of my mind I was hoping for that. So I made it to 38 weeks and I thought, it's fine, this is fine, it's all good. I'm probably gonna go to 41 weeks. That's okay, 42 weeks even. So, but I think a little part of me, deep inside, was kind of oh, why can't I, go into labor early? I just really want to meet my baby. So the Wednesday before, I thought that I possibly was experiencing some signs of labor starting, no contractions or anything, but I thought that maybe I was losing my mucus plug. Called my midwife, explained everything to her. She let me know, no, that's not what that is. So you're not going into labor, which was a big bummer for me. So the day before I went into labor, I had woken up at 2 a.m. experiencing some contractions or some major Braxton Hicks. I didn't really know at the time. And I woke Miles up and he drew a bath for me, and I kind of sat in the bath and I just relaxed. And we talked for a while, and he asked me if he should stay home from work, but I told him that no, go to work if this continues or it progresses, if the contractions get more intense and they get closer together, then I can just call you home from work. So we tried to go back to sleep, and then we slept for a few more hours, and he got up and he left for work. But I was still very crampy throughout the day, and it was quite uncomfortable. But because I had been, experiencing these last 2 weeks hoping to go into labor early and then not, and I was 2 days away from 40 weeks, I just told myself no, this isn't anything. This is just severe Braxton Hicks. It's okay. You're just stressed out. It's fine. But I had been timing them, and they were regular, they were consistent, but they were 15 minutes apart. So it was nothing that I, thought was really serious, and my Braxton Hicks had kind of seemed regular in the past before, so I wasn't concerned about it. Miles went to work, and my parents had invited us over for lunch once Miles got off of work. So we were planning on going to their house, and they were gonna make broccoli cheese soup. And I remember this because I love broccoli cheese soup and I had been craving it. And so this was perfect, and I was so excited about it. But I remember texting my mom and being hey, I'm really excited about soup, but I am really uncomfortable, and it kind of hurts to do anything. So I don't know if I'll be able to make it. It's just really uncomfortable. She had offered to bring the soup to us instead and have everyone meet at our house. But I mentally was just you know what? it's okay, I can do this, because I knew that for a first-time mom, your labor can be really long. So if it was labor, or even if it was the beginning or the signs of labor going to start soon, that I just needed to not get too much in my head, because it was going to be a long road ahead of me. So I knew that I wanted to live my life like normal until the contractions got to the point where I couldn't. So I told my mom, you know what, nope, it's okay, we'll come. Miles came and got me after he finished with work, and we went to my parents, we made broccoli cheese soup, and I asked my sister to braid my hair. I brought some hair ties with me, and I asked her to braid my hair into 2 braids. And my hair was really short. It was like probably here, I think. So it was pretty short, and I knew that when I was in labor, I feel like I was gonna be really sweaty, and I just wanted my hair out of the way. So I had mentioned to my mom and my sister before that I wanted to have my hair braided when I was in labor, and my mom was going to attend the birth. And so I asked her, like, hey, if you don't have a chance before, if you get to our house and I'm in labor, I might have you braid my hair just so I can get it off of my neck a little bit. I had my sister braid my hair, but I didn't say anything. I didn't say, hey, braid my hair, because I think I might be going into labor. But I definitely had that thought that in case I was, I just wanted to have my hair out of the way. We ate soup, we all laughed and talked, and it was really nice. And then we started watching some home videos. I was still having these consistent contractions, but they were 15 to 30 minutes apart, so it was nothing that I thought was serious at all. Totally just thought maybe Braxton Hicks. I thought I was maybe just constipated. I know that that can be an early sign of labor, and that's just something you deal with in pregnancy. So I just thought, this is normal, just a little bit more intense. Maybe I ate something that's bothering my stomach. And so we were watching home videos, and I would get these contractions every 15 to 30 minutes, and they were like 30 seconds long. But I just remember one point watching the TV, watching these home videos, having a contraction come on, and all of a sudden realizing that I had like a tear rolling down my cheek. And I was like, oh, I guess that was a little bit more intense than I thought. So at that point, I was like, I think I should get home so that I can rest for the rest of the evening, and I can really try to get some sleep tonight, because I didn't admit it to myself, but I just had a feeling that I would need to get some rest. My family obviously understood. My mom could see kind of like how I was doing. And so we left, and we came home. I called my midwife, and I think she had an appointment with someone else at the time. So I left her a voicemail, and I was just like, hey, I've just been having this, like, I think I might just be constipated, but it seems like it's kind of regular, because it had been like every 15 to 30 minutes I would get a contraction for like 3 hours, and then it would stop for 2 hours, and I would have nothing. So that's why I never called her during the day, because it would stop, and then I felt like, oh, maybe I just had imagined those contractions before. And then it would start again for the 3 hours, like every 15 minutes. And I'd be like, no, this is real. But then it would stop again. So when I called her, I just was very doubtful. As a first-time mom, I was like, oh, I don't want to tell her that it's labor when it's not labor. And then, you know, I don't want to be one of those like first-time moms, which there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know why I was so afraid of that. But anyway, I explained the situation to her, explained how the timing was, and she called me back a little bit later, and she was like, Sarah, that's prodromal labor. So, you know, those are contractions. She did let me know that for a lot of first-time moms, and a lot of moms who have prodromal labor, it can go on for up to like a couple weeks even. So she was like, this is good, your body's doing something, like, be happy about that, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're gonna go into labor like right away, because this happens to women, and they still have prodromal labor, off and on labor, for a couple weeks before active labor starts. Although I didn't know the timing of things and when active labor would actually start, it was really encouraging to know that these contractions that I was sitting through, like, it was my body doing its job, and it was actually working towards something, and it wasn't just Braxton Hicks that weren't doing anything. It was my body contracting to open up everything. We went to sleep a little bit early, Then I woke up Sunday morning at 2 a.m. again, and I woke up from contractions. They weren't super intense, but I think I was hungry. So I had Miles make me some oatmeal at 2 in the morning.
It's currently 2:36 on Sunday, January 17th, and I woke up probably like half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago from contractions, and so we've been timing it for like 40 minutes, and they're about 1 minute long and 7 to 8 minutes apart. Trying to sleep, but I was really hungry, so I'm eating some oatmeal.
Just remember at 4, after trying to sleep, I couldn't sleep and Miles drew me a bath again. So I got in the bath and I just kind of relaxed, and we timed them for an hour, and they were, let's see, I might have this written down. I need to check now. I'm really thankful for this because I can't remember. It's been a year, and I'm really thankful that I wrote it down. I think I wrote it down like a month or so after she was born. I wrote her birth story. But let's see, when I woke up at 2, my contractions were 7 to 8 minutes apart, and they were only lasting about like 30 seconds. Then when we woke up again at 4 and I got in the bath, we timed them for another hour, and they were lasting for 30 to 45 seconds. So they were a lot longer. And they were only like 3 to 5 minutes apart. We called her just before 6, and she arrived at our house a little before 8. And then we called my mom when we called her, and I think my mom came over right away. So when my midwife arrived, she checked me. She asked me if she could check me, and I wanted to know how things were. So she checked me, and I was 100% effaced, but only 1 centimeter dilated. I remember being a little bit disappointed, but knowing that that's just the way it is. She was surprised that I was 100% effaced and only 1 centimeter dilated. I remember her telling me that we just knew it would just take time, and that I needed to be laboring in positions, if possible. I needed to be laboring in positions that would help everything open up more. I think around 9, our midwife encouraged us to try sleeping again, but I remember laying on my side and realizing this was I just could not sleep, and it was really uncomfortable, so I needed to get up again. I was trying to eat a lot of snacks, but I really wasn't super hungry. Of course, I was feeling like a little bit queasy, but I was really thirsty, so I was drinking a lot of water. And then like an hour later, we tried to sleep again. But this time it was a lot better because Miles leaned up against the wall in the bed, and then I laid between his legs, leaning up against his back, or leaning my back up against his chest. And that was a way more comfortable position for me to be able to sleep. So I did like rest a little bit that way. So when I woke back up, my contractions had spaced apart, but my mom went and she brought us all some lunch, and we all ate lunch. And then my midwife let us know, after asking me about the contractions and I let her know that they were spaced out, she told us that she was gonna head home, rest for a little while, because she thought that labor wouldn't start again for me or my contractions wouldn't be consistent again until late that evening. So she wanted to go home and get her rest. She lived about an hour away, and we let her know that was fine, that we would be fine, and that I would just labor at home until things got more consistent and more intense. But it had like slowed down so much at this point that I was planning on just doing our normal daily stuff. I wanted really bad to get this nice pajama set from Target, and so my plan was to go back to sleep after they left, sleep for a little while, and then go to Target, get my pajama set. And also, this day was the 2-year anniversary after Miles had proposed. It was the same day. And so we always like to go to the location where he proposed and just go for a walk. So I thought, let's go get my pajama set, then let's go to this park and let's walk around and enjoy it. And labor might not start until late again tonight, or might not start again until tomorrow, like who knows. But I just wanted to keep my mind off of things and keep myself busy. So that was the plan, but we knew that we needed to rest first before going into town.
It's now 12:35 in the afternoon, and on Sunday, January 17th still. This morning I was having contractions 7 to 8 minutes apart, lasting for about a minute, and then that was between 2 and 3, and then between 4 and 5, I got in the bath a little bit, but my contractions for that hour were like 3 to 5 minutes apart, lasting like 45 seconds. So we called our midwife at the end of that time, and we let her know everything that was going on. And my mom came over for a little while, and those contractions lasted for quite a bit. In fact, they probably got like closer to like 2 to 3 minutes apart, but still only lasting for like 30 to 45 seconds at that point. And then I pretty sure I lost my mucus plug sometime around then. Then we ordered some food and tried to take another nap around 10. And that's when contractions kind of started stalling out and spacing apart. So I was able to get some sleep, but contractions weren't happening really regularly. And so just like 20 minutes ago, Robin decided to leave to go back home. But she said she was pretty sure that she will be back again tonight. So we're just gonna try to rest for a little while, and then hopefully get some nice pajama set for me for after baby's born.
I'm so thankful that I made that decision, because we slept for about an hour. But as soon as my midwife left, my contractions started picking up again. We were both just laying in bed resting, and I remember they just started to get more intense. And I remember like kind of groaning and moaning through them, and Miles would like rub my back. They started to get more intense, and he would get out of bed, he would come on my side, and he would grab my arms, and he would lift his arm or put his arm out, and I would hold onto his arm and kind of lift myself up to like allow that to like stretch and help with the contractions. And I remember one of these times I kind of like cried out a little bit, and he came over and did that, and I was holding up, and then I just felt this pop. And I immediately knew that my water had broken, because I felt the pop, and then I felt the, I don't know, it was in between a gush and a trickle. I remember my midwife telling me movies are totally unrealistic when it comes to water breaking, and usually first-time moms, their waters don't break until they're pushing. Sometimes they have to even like have their waters broken for them, but it's really not typical for them to break just in labor or before labor. It's just not typical for a first-time mom. So I wasn't expecting this at all, and I was also expecting it to be more of like a trickle, something that maybe I wouldn't really know if my water had broken or not, but I knew right away. That's like when I cried out, because when my water broke, there was no longer that cushion, so everything was 10 times more intense. Up until this point, all of my contractions, all of labor had just felt like one of my periods. And it was definitely bearable, tolerable. This happened, and it was such a drastic change that I panicked. I had done so good up until this point with my mindset and just letting myself know that this was all natural, my body could do this, and so many women before me had natural births. I knew that my body was designed to give birth. But this happened, and because it went from like such a like minor contractions to suddenly not having this cushion, and there was no warning, and it just happened like that. It was really intense. And I remember that pop, that gush while I was holding up on Miles's arm. And I remember saying, Miles, my water just broke, my water just broke, my water just broke. And I remember him saying, are you sure? And then he kind of like helped me get out of bed, and then he saw and he was like, oh, yep, your water broke. He called the midwife and he let her know that my water had broken, and she recommended that we try to walk around for a little bit and like then call her again in an hour because she had just gotten home. And he let me know that, and then he called my mom. My mom could hear me breathing on the other end, and she was like, I'm coming right now. When Miles told me that the midwife had said to call again in an hour, I was like, I could feel that I didn't know. I needed that help in labor. I needed somebody to help me. And so he called her back because I told him, nope, she needs to come back right now. She's an hour away. She needs to come back. I just felt like I needed her here. It was my first time giving birth. I didn't know what to expect, and I just needed her. I wanted her support. So he called her back, and she could hear me on the other end, and I was almost like hyperventilating at this point. And so he put me on speaker because she wanted to talk to me, and she got very stern with me, and she said, Sarah, you need to breathe, you need to stop freaking out, you need to stop hyperventilating, you need to stop gasping, you need to breathe, because you need this oxygen and your baby needs this oxygen, and this is so important that you need to be giving your baby oxygen by breathing normally. You need to calm down, you need to take big breaths. I am so thankful for the midwife that I chose, and that she was so strict with me on that point, because she just let me know, like, you need to stop doing this. You're not getting oxygen to yourself or to your baby by doing this. You need to breathe. You need to calm down. You can do this. Like, you're capable. I'll be there. My midwife also was having another local midwife attend my birth to like be her assistant. And so my mom arrived, and then this other midwife arrived. And I think by this point I had acclimated to the contractions at this point, and I was breathing through my contractions again, which was really good. And I remember talking between contractions, laughing between contractions, sitting on my exercise ball with my arms over my desk and just like leaning like this through each contraction. Or my favorite way was to hold on to Miles while we were standing and just put all of my weight on him, wrap my arms around his neck, and just release, relax, and go through my contractions that way. That also was helping, I think, open things up more because the gravity was helping with that. My contractions at this point were a minute to a minute and a half long, and they were 2 to 3 minutes apart. So it was very quick. There wasn't too much of a break. My main midwife arrived, and she convinced me to try laboring in the tub with the water on, just because it had been so intense for me. But I didn't get one of the inflatable birth pools. I decided that I didn't want to do a water birth, so I didn't have that, and I was just gonna labor in our bathtub. But I got in there, and it was so awkward and uncomfortable and hard and just not pleasant. So I had a few contractions in there, and my midwife asked me how I was doing, and I told her I didn't like it. I didn't want labor in there. And she said, well, why don't you just try to have a few more contractions in the tub? And I said, no. So they helped me get out and dried off. I was in the tub, and when I was out of the tub, I was shaking. I do this thing when I have any kind of like traumatic experience, or stressful experience, or my body is physically going through stress or mentally going through stress, I shake. I like tremor, and I can't stop it. I remember my midwife was a little bit concerned about that, until we let her know that that's just something that's actually normal for my body, and that it was fine. My mom does it, my sister does it. I don't know why, but it's like a physical way to release the stress. I went back to laboring on my exercise ball. It looks like she checked me a little bit before I got in the tub, and I was 100% effaced and 4 centimeters dilated. And that was devastating to hear because I had gone through that really intense period. My contractions were so close together. I just was surprised that I wasn't more dilated. And my water broke. I was just ready. But I was not losing hope, and I was not losing patience. I knew that I could do it. I knew that my body was designed to do it, and I knew that I had the strength, and that I just needed to conserve my energy by relaxing through contractions until it was time to push. About an hour later, like 45 minutes later, so it was like 5 to 5:45. At 5:45, I felt like I needed to use the bathroom. I felt like I needed to poop. I remember my midwife saying, okay, like, let's go. Have a couple contractions on the toilet. You can go. But I'm gonna stand at the door. At this point, I did not care. By this point, I was wearing a shirt and nothing else. No bra, no underwear, no pants. So if my midwife wanted to watch me poop, that was fine. I had no concern about that. I just wanted to give birth to my baby. I sat on the toilet through multiple contractions, but I couldn't, nothing was happening. I was not pooping. And that's when I realized, oh, that's my baby's head. She was sitting so low that I could feel her pushing up against my cervix, even though I wasn't completely dilated. And I felt the urge to push. And I started pushing while I was on the toilet. I fought the urge to push, which, let me tell you, hate that. I was looking forward to when they told me that I could finally push. Every contraction, I just involuntarily was pushing. So an hour after I felt the urge to push, it was like an hour 15, my mom had a conversation with the midwives while I was laboring. My mom was chatting with the midwives in the kitchen, and she said, this is so crazy. This similar thing happened to me when I was in labor. And if you don't know, you typically labor like your mother. And she told them that she had not been very dilated, and then really quickly after she felt the urge to push, she became dilated. My midwife came up to me and she said, Sarah, I think I should check you. You know, she had checked me like a couple hours before, and I was only 4 centimeters, and I knew that I wasn't dilating very fast because I had only been a centimeter when she first arrived early in the morning. And so I figured, what, she's gonna check me and I'm gonna be 5 centimeters. I said, okay, that's fine. So I got down on my back, and she was trying to check me, but every contraction I was pushing her fingers out because I was involuntarily pushing. Finally, she got to the point, which this was so painful, not her fault, it just was because my body was at the stage that it was at. But she was finally able to check me, and she was like, yeah, you're like 9 centimeters dilated. That was so relieving. I remember that feeling when she said, we're gonna use this evening primrose oil on you to help finish dilating like the rest of the way, and then you can push. You don't even have to move, like you can start pushing. That was such a glorious feeling. I remember being so happy, like just so relieved. I was on my hands and knees, which I didn't enjoy, and then I went to active pushing right after that because I was dilated. They moved me to a few different positions because they asked me in what position I wanted to push in, or what position I wanted to give birth in, and I didn't know. I just wanted to birth my baby. I couldn't think clearly at this point, and so I was just like, whatever. Her heart rates dropped a little bit in certain positions, so they had moved to a different position, and they were checking and they were making sure that she was doing okay, that I was doing okay during this whole process. And finally, I was on my side. Miles had one of my legs. He was pushing up every contraction. He was pushing against my leg. The other midwife was pushing against my other leg. My main midwife was using a warm rag and compress to help against tearing. And then my mom was holding my hand and she was talking to me. They asked me if I wanted to feel her head once they could see it, and I was like, heck no, I don't want to. I know that can be really encouraging for some moms to be able to feel like, oh, my baby's right there. But for me, I was like, I just want her to be born and then I'll feel her head. But my midwife finally convinced me to feel her head. And then right after I was like, okay, I'm done. I just want to keep pushing. I was working on getting her to crown for a little while, and it was taking me some time, and I was getting exhausted at this point. And I remember that Edith's heart rate dropped. because she had been in that same position for a while. But I was so tired. My mom's encouragement wasn't helping me. Miles was just staying silent. He was just holding me, and my main midwife's encouragement wasn't helping me. And then I remember the other midwife, who had been just so gentle, so quiet the whole time. Finally, like, they had talked about moving me into a different position that I would have been able to maybe have Edith crown in, but maybe wouldn't be as good for I probably would have torn more. But before they moved me to that position, the other midwife started talking, and she started encouraging me. And she was like, you can do this, push hard. And then she's like, push as hard as you can, and then push even harder. Finally, Edith's head crowned. Edith wasn't crying. She just had her eyes open already, just with her head out, and she was just looking around. My mom came around and was holding my leg, and then Miles went with my main midwife because he wanted to catch Edith. And so then after that, her shoulders were easier. And then after that, there's no more like bones that are really gonna be like in the way, and she just kind of was really slippery. I remember that Miles said he barely caught her. I think my midwife really had to like help him. They brought her to me right away, and I just took my shirt off, which was the last thing that I was wearing, and I just held her and I just did skin to skin. I just was like, I just couldn't believe it. Such a surreal experience, and I'm so happy that we decided to do a home birth and that we got to meet our baby in this way, in such a peaceful, relaxing environment. She was officially born at 8:51 p.m. So it was about a 16-hour labor, I think, but 24 hours of prodromal labor before. We had not shared her name. Everyone knew that she was going to be a girl, but no one knew what we were going to name her. So my mom got to be the first one to hear that. It was just so special. It makes me like so excited. I can't believe she's a year old. It just makes me so excited to have more babies, like, and to continue growing our family. I'm just so thankful for everyone who's there, and it just was such a beautiful bonding moment between Miles and I. Woke up the next morning and I remember just looking over and seeing her and being like, no one is here but us, like, she's ours. Yeah, that next day was my 40 weeks. That was my due date. So she was born a day early. We love our Edith, and we cannot believe that she's like a year old. Like, I talking about this and like remembering everything is just blowing my mind. Thank you so much for watching. You have no idea how special it is to me to be able to share these stories with you guys and just take you along on the journey of becoming our own little family. It is so special. I love documenting it all. If you have any questions about my birth story or anything else baby related, home birth related, let me know and I can make some more videos for you guys. Until next time.